So you're right, we weren't having those conversations, but I think like a very pivotal turning point in this year is really being okay with being in that space and knowing that it's time to pivot. There are things that need to change. You're changing as a person, and I think it's really understanding that over time we've talked about it. As a person, you're continuously changing. Mm-hmm. Husband and wife, we are consistently changing. And I was talking to a friend, I said this a little bit earlier. I was talking to a friend because I finally found it. I was looking for this, right? I didn't find it, y'all. But I'm talking to a friend, Jabari. He was telling me, because he also studying this pastor and all this stuff like that. And he was like, yo, my mom gave me this book that for Christmas. It's called The Way of the Superior Man. And it's like this spiritual thing for, relationships, men, how men to deal with women in themselves or whatever. Like, yeah. So, but I ain't gonna hold you. Once I read it, I had to take it off for myself because there's no way this can only apply to men. But if you're a man and you listen to this, it's obviously a good book. But here it goes. Let me read this. I'm gonna summarize it. It says, you will experience layer after layer of purposes, each one getting closer and closer to the fullness of your deepest purpose. It is as if your deepest purpose is at the center of your being, and it's surrounded by layers of circles, and each one is a lesser purpose. Then it says, it's easy to feel disappointed by life. Success is never fulfilling as you think it's supposed to be, but there's a reason for this. Successfully completing a lesser purpose doesn't feel very good for very long, because it's simply preparation for advancing towards a greater embodiment of your deeper purpose. Each purpose, each mission is meant to be lived fully to the point where it becomes empty, boring, and useless. Then it should be discarded. This is a sign of growth, but you may mistake it for a sign of failure. For instance, you may take on a business project. I'm reading this
You're reading my life right now.
That's why I had to read the whole thing, because I'm like, yo, this is crazy. For instance, you may take on a business project, work at it for several years, and then suddenly find yourself totally disinterested.
Yo, that's crazy.
Wait, you know that if you stayed with it for another few years, you would reap much greater. Sorry about this.
Okay. Okay.
You know that if you stayed for another few years, you would reap much greater financial reward than you would if you left now. But the project no longer calls you. You no longer feel interested in it. You have developed skills over the last few years working on the project, but it hasn't yet to come to fruition. You may wonder now that you have the skills, should you stick with it and bring the project to fruition, even though it feels empty to you. So now I'm like, okay, where do you go with this book, right?
Right.
It says, here are the signs of fulfilling or completing a layer of purpose. You suddenly feel like you have no interest whatsoever in a project or mission that you just previously were motivated by highly. You feel surprisingly free of any regrets whatsoever for starting the project or for ending it. Even though you may not have the slightest idea of what you're going to do next, you feel clear, unconfused, and especially unburdened. You feel an increase in energy at the prospect of ceasing your involvement with it, and the project just might seem silly. It says if you're experiencing these signs, it is probably time to stop working on this project. The next layer of your unfolding purpose may make itself clear immediately, but more often, it does not. After completing a layer of purpose, you might not know what to do with your life.
It's not mine. You won't. You won't know what to do with your life.
You know the old project is over for you, but you're not sure what's next. At this point, you must wait for a vision. Consciously keep yourself open and available to receiving a vision of what is next. It will come. And when it comes, it usually won't even be a detailed vision. You'll have a sense of what direction to move in, but practical steps might not make themselves clear. When the impulse begins to arise, act. Don't wait for the details. Learn by trial and error what it is you are to do. We were just talking about this.
Wow.
This is why I had to read the whole thing. I'm like, I cannot not read this because one, it's reading your whole life, my whole life in general.
Everybody's.
And in this season of pivoting, it's like when we're feeling like, yo, what the hell is going on? How can I love something yesterday and today feel purposeless in it?
Yeah, that's really what it was. And that was so shocking to me. That was what it was so shocking to me. I'm like, no way.
Bruh.
No way.
But in seeing that and reading that, it's all like, this applies to all people. It's not for me. But in reading and seeing that, it's like, I just fulfilled the purpose. That's why it goes from, it's saying that's why you will go from being high on this thing, motivated by this thing, and overnight, it doesn't make you feel like anything. You're staying at the peak of your success. Most money you ever made, most influence that building your influence, building your leadership, and now I feel empty.
Yes.
You finished your assignment in that purpose, but it gave you the skill sets for your next layer.
And I was going to ask you, like, how do you know when it's time to pivot? And you just kind of answered that, like, when you're in that seat, when you feel that way.
That is correct.
It is time for you to move on. It is time for you to start something new or wait.
And then, so imagine that. No. That is the hard part. But imagine this is the season, this is the state that you're in. I don't know. I feel like I'm preaching to myself at this point. This moment just reading it again, because I read it before. I read that part before. Reading it again, it's like I just got a sense of, a breath of fresh air, because when you're in that season of pivoting, especially when you feel like I don't know what to do, I know this isn't my total, but I also don't know exactly what to do. And for me, because I'm a control freak with my own life, that is like, oh my gosh, I can't. But understanding now, like, yo, you just shared a sense of purpose. That's it. You completed your assignment in this space. And now it's time for you to wait for your next purpose. It's time for you to wait for new vision. And over the last, 60 days, 90 days, you and I have started to, it's slow. Like I said, you'll just get an impulse of, and I feel like now we're in that impulse stage, and we've started to act on, even the podcast was impulse, babe. Like, and so it's like when you're talking about, but the whole thing is now saying, wait, here's holy.
Yeah, so that's when it got speaking. Here's holy message in the beginning of the year. And we all, okay, God, okay, here's holy. But I don't want to be here.
But why this here?
But why here? Why this here? Why this confusion? Why start here?
Yeah.
And the more we heard it, the more we started to understand why we're at this place, why we're here. Because we were supposed to be.
Yes, and I think just having a phrase like that gives you peace in it, because it allows you to remember that this is uncomfortable. I don't like it. I don't want to be here. I would prefer to pass go. You know what I'm saying? Like, can we just give you the 200 and pass go? No, I have to wait here. And I think the more you hear, like, yo, this is where you're supposed to be. This is just wait. It gives you the peace of like, okay, I don't have all the understanding. I don't have all the know-how, but I do know that I'm where I'm supposed to be in order to elevate. It's like we're in the slingshot when you pull it back. We're in the pullback. Mm-hmm. But when you let it go, how far does it go? But the uncomfortable space is being pulled.
Hey, if you like this episode, make sure you like, share, but don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more. We'll see you in the next episode.